Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Salt Lake City Snowhawks expansion franchise here on Madden 25. Our Snowhawks are back in the Super Bowl as we're going to be taking on Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and we'll take a look at our journey as we're back in the Super Bowl for the second consecutive season as we took down the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship, a rematch, as we also took last year's edition, and we're now 2-0 against them in the NFC Championship game. Going back to the divisional round, we were able to sneak out with a win against the Los Angeles Rams by a score of 40-37. What a shootout that turned out to be. Even though we had a big lead early on, we squandered that, and the Rams almost rallied back, but we were able to hang strong as Will Reichert hit a game-winning field goal as time expired. But we did have that first round bye, so only 2 wins in this postseason en route to an appearance in Super Bowl 63, where, as I said, we're going to be taking on Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes looking for his 5th Super Bowl ring, as the Chiefs did win it back in year 2. And in this episode, we're going to preview this Super Bowl matchup. Before we do that, we also are going to dig into yearly awards here, Pro Bowlers and league leaders and all that fun stuff. So we see here Patrick Mahomes does win the MVP award, his 5th all time, because over the course of this franchise he has won 2 and now make it 3, as it's been either him or Josh Allen, who actually finishes 2nd, who have captured all 5 MVP awards over the course of this franchise. We have Lamar Jackson at 3rd and Lucas McDonald 4th. He was the favorite for most of the way in the early parts of the season, but his MVP candidacy cooled off a little bit as we went on, but still a respectable finish there at 4th on the board, ahead of Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, Will Evans of the Rams, Ben Davis, his 2nd-year quarterback for the Cowboys, Byron Snow, potential MVP winner we think down the road for the Seahawks. Also Anthony Richardson, who has developed into a very nice player over the course of this franchise. Now Coach of the Year, we do get that. John Gruden wins Coach of the Year, leading the Snowhawks to back-to-back NFC championships, this time with a 13-4 regular season record, as we did secure that first round bye. Zach Taylor finishes 2nd. Lewis Fox of the Rams finishes 3rd, and followed by him is Andy Reid of the Chiefs, Joseph Wells, now the coach of the Colts, John Harbaugh, Nick Sirianni, Kevin O'Connell, Jim Harbaugh, and DeMeco Ryans, as a bunch of head coaches were fired. So we're going to have a lot of shakeup on that front. And now we'll go by conference. And Offensive Player of the Year goes to Carlos Alvarez. He was phenomenal as a rookie, but took his game to a whole other level this year in his 2nd season. The former first-round pick out of Florida State was 3 catches short of winning a receiving triple crown, as he did lead in receiving yards and touchdowns this year. And right behind him is his quarterback, Lucas McDonald. And then we have Puka Nacua, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, and a few quarterbacks that we just saw before on the MVP rankings. And also Devontae Smith and Tracy Pryor, the leading receiver for the Atlanta Falcons. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Braden Fiske, who I believe led the NFL in sacks. Right behind him is teammate Kobe Turner, and then at 5th is Jared Verse, who won it last year. So 3 of the top 5 finishers here in the NFC Defensive Player of the Year race all come from the same defensive line. 3rd was Aiden Hutchinson, and then we have Caleb Patton finishing 4th. He was arguably the best interior rusher in all of football, and we're probably going to have to throw a franchise tag on him. And at 6th on the board here is Taylor Goddard, our rookie first-round pick out of Tennessee. Pretty sure he's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, as we'll see here shortly. Micah Parsons, Steve Groves, a 4th-year DN here of Tampa Bay, and also Fred Warner and Lucas Van Ness, I think his first year with the Falcons. And Fred Warner won it last year as he led the league in interceptions. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Deshaun Montague, often referred to as the next Michael Vick, ended up with the Falcons and delivered with a Rookie of the Year award, and also led the Falcons to an NFC South title despite an 8-9 record. Behind him is Ladarius James, first-round pick for the 49ers, who was drafted to replace Brandon Ayuk, who had a tremendous debut season in Cleveland. Adrian Kincaid, quarterback of the Panthers, finishes 3rd. A few guys here I'm not sure: Cecil Dorsey, John Ayers, Darrell Williams. I know he was a first-round pick out of Ohio State, running back, who was drafted to replace Jahmyr Gibbs, who signed with the Panthers. Our Manny Reynolds, 6th-round pick, running back out of Cal, finishes 7th. And now going over to Defensive Rookie of the Year, it was none other than Taylor Goddard, who won it with 14 sacks, finishing a half sack short of the rookie record. And behind him was Jalen Langford, a very good linebacker there from Minnesota. And finishing 3rd was Dakota Michaels. He was drafted 31st overall. Goddard 10 spots ahead at 21 overall. And both of them were among the best defensive rookies in all of football. And Michaels even had a pick 6 on Mahomes back in like week 11, I think, on Monday Night Football, as we did defeat the Chiefs in our regular season matchup. We'll take a look at that box score when we move into the Super Bowl preview part of this episode. 4th on the board here, Randy Lawson. I remember a high first-round pick out of Michigan, pass rusher there for Washington. Eric Woodard, defensive tackle of the Rams, a 3rd-round pick out of Florida, and he ended up having superstar development, so a very good pick there from Los Angeles. And a 3rd Snowhawks defender here, finishing 8th on the board, Randy Fisher, 2nd-round pick out of UCLA. Best quarterback goes to Jordan Love. I was not expecting that. Lucas McDonald right behind him at number 2. Best running back goes to Kyron Williams, followed by Bijan Robinson. Lamar Hale's a young running back there for the Saints, part of a draft class over the course of this franchise. We have Tank Bigsby at 8th and Jahmyr Gibbs all the way down at 10 in his first season with the Panthers. Best wide receiver goes to Carlos Alvarez, also the offensive player of the year. And behind him is Puka Nacua, Devontae Smith, Devontae Logan of the Cowboys. He's turned into a burner for them, I believe a former first-round pick. Tracy Pryor of the Falcons, DK Metcalf, Darnell Mooney of the Falcons as well. And then a few studs here at the bottom. Jordan Jefferson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Best offensive lineman goes to Sam Cosmi of Washington and his teammate Tyler Biadasz. Right behind him, we have Creed Humphrey at 4th, his first season as a Snowhawk after signing a big contract this past free agency. Best defensive lineman goes to Braden Fiskey, followed by Kobe Turner, Aiden Hutchinson. Then we have our very own Caleb Patton and Taylor Goddard there rounding out the top 5. Best linebacker goes to Jared Verse, followed by Micah Parsons, Brent Burns, who is set to hit free agency unless he's able to reach an agreement with the Giants in the re-sign phase. Jerry Sexton, our linebacker, finishes at 6th on the board. Best defensive back goes to Darius Simpson. He's a CPU-generated defensive back that does win the Best Defensive Back of the Year, followed by Quinion Mitchell, and Nathan Scruggs finishes 3rd for us, our top cornerback. He was actually named Best Defensive Back of the Year last season, and Dakota Michaels finishes 5th during his rookie campaign. Best kicker goes to Jake Bates. I think he missed just 1 kick all year. And now we'll just run through the AFC real quick. Offensive Player of the Year goes to Lamar Jackson, followed by Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and even Brandon Ayuk here finishes in the top 5. Also Isaiah Pacheco, and we also have, look at here at number 9, Troy Franklin. A surprise. Their Defensive Player of the Year again goes to Myles Garrett in the AFC, followed by TJ Watt, Greg Rousseau, and also Larry Fowler, D-tackle of the Chiefs, who we're going to see in the Super Bowl. He has emerged as one of the best interior rushers in all of football, former first-round pick out of Miami. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Quincy Richards, first-round pick out of Penn State, the only tight end selected in the first round last season. I believe he had double-digit touchdowns. Second was DeJuan Randolph, a running back drafted in the 4th round out of Mississippi State, and he ended up having like 78 overall, hidden development, and ended up being one of the biggest sleepers and gems of this past draft class. And second in Offensive Rookie of the Year, Lance Higgins of the Raiders, Braxton Morant. I remember a second-round pick out of Miami of the Jets. Philip Barlow, he was a first-round pick out of Colorado, receiver there, stays in state with the Denver Broncos. Defensive Rookie of the Year goes to linebacker Dexter Gresham, 3rd-round pick out of Louisville, Pat Burgess, James Dawkins. He was a 6th-round pick of the Chiefs. We're, of course, going to see him in the Super Bowl, and he was a 6th-round pick with superstar development. So the Chiefs may be the biggest diamond in the rough there late on day 3. Jason Stewart, first-round pick out of UW, a safety. He had a good first season there with the Patriots. Tyrone Springs, a first-round pick, a D-tackle we were very high on. Looks like he had a productive season there with the Miami Dolphins. Patrick Mahomes wins Best Quarterback. Best running back goes to his teammate there in the backfield, Isaiah Pacheco. Second was Dontrell Dixon, a former high draft pick out of Texas there for the Bengals. Best receiver goes to Brandon Ayuk, followed by Rashee Rice and Troy Franklin, who we just mentioned. One of the biggest breakout seasons of any player across the NFL. Jamar Chase, Khalil Shakir, Ladd McConkey, T. Higgins. Best offensive lineman goes to Tyler Linderbaum. Best defensive lineman, Myles Garrett. Best linebacker goes to TJ Watt. And best DB goes to DJ Reed, who led the NFL in interceptions. And best kicker, we're going to see Harrison Butker in the Super Bowl. So hopefully we can maybe block a kick, change momentum in that game. And now we are going to take a look at Pro Bowlers, and we're not going to have any official Pro Bowlers just because, of course, we're playing in the Super Bowl, so we cannot participate. But we are going to go down the roster actually and take a look, because it does show when players make the Pro Bowl, even if they don't appear on the actual Pro Bowl roster. So if you just go over here to progression history, and we will go down a little bit, gonna have to go to the end of the regular season. We'll see there towards the middle of the screen there, Pro Bowl appearance. So he got plus 2422 XP, plus 100 legacy, and plus 3 morale. So I want to say that was the first Pro Bowl for Lucas McDonald, maybe his second, but he's our first Pro Bowler of the season. And we also had Carlos Alvarez up to a 90 overall now with some morale boosts, and we even have some skill points that we can attribute to him. But right now we're just looking at progression history, and like I said, you go down a little bit to the end of the regular season and you'll see their Pro Bowl appearance towards the middle of the screen. He got plus 3605 XP, plus 100 legacy, and plus 3 morale, as he was also Offensive Player of the Year and Best Wide Receiver. So that's 2 Pro Bowlers for our team. I think Mark Andrews also made one, as again we'll go over to progression history and go down to the regular season and make it 7 Pro Bowls now for Mark Andrews, as he got plus 588 XP, plus 700 legacy, plus 1 morale. So with 7 Pro Bowls, maybe Mark Andrews a potential Hall of Famer. We'll see how he does with 1 more year on his contract. And Cade Moreland, a left guard, we drafted him 10th overall back in the year 3 offseason, or maybe that was the year 2 offseason actually. He ended up being the top overall prospect in that class based on true talent. And I want to say he did make the Pro Bowl this year, as he did. So his first Pro Bowl for the former first round pick, and that got him over 3,000 XP plus 100 legacy. And now Creed Humphrey, I believe he was in the Pro Bowl as well. So just a bunch of our offensive starters make the big game and make it 7 Pro Bowls for Creed Humphrey. So that's 2 offensive linemen, a receiver, a tight end, and a quarterback. So 5 Pro Bowlers on offense. And I want to say we had a few more on defense. We'll see if Taylor Goddard made it as a rookie. As we'll go down to progression history, and we'll see there that he did make the Pro Bowl. He got over 4,400 in XP. He also, I just noticed, turned into a superstar. So we'll take a look at his abilities. And I did not even notice that before, and I was bouncing around before I started recording this episode. He has BOGO, so defenders with this ability are granted a free pass rush move once per play after spending a pass rush point. And he also has Reach Elite. Defenders with this ability can reach out of engaged blocks to tackle or sack nearby ball carriers. So Taylor Goddard goes up to an 86 overall. He evolves into a superstar development, which we love to see. Now going over to defensive tackle, Caleb Patton also evolves to superstar development. You love to see that. He has abilities as well now with Stonewall. Defenders with this ability will frequently prevent additional yardage gains while tackling. He has goal line stuff. Defenders with this ability use faster run shed moves for a better chance at shedding blocks within 5 yards of the goal line. And he also has BOGO. Same with Taylor Goddard. He gets a free pass rush move once per play after spending a pass rush point. So we are evolving up front. We have 2 players go from star development to superstar development. And Caleb Patton, Taylor Goddard also make a Pro Bowl, so that now makes it 7 on the team. I don't think Quay Walker made it. We will check the progression history real quick. He's still at star development, and going back to the regular season, he did not make the Pro Bowl, although was one of the league leaders in tackles. Jerry Sexton, we'll see if he made a Pro Bowl. I don't know if he quite had the production this year to make it, and it doesn't look like he did. So we're still at 7 Pro Bowlers. I wonder if one of our corners made it, and we do have Terrion Arnold, who went up to X Factor during the season. Let's go to his progression history, take a look. And Arnold did not make the Pro Bowl. I think our last chance here would be Nathan Scruggs. And he's actually now up to an X Factor, so he evolves as well. He goes from Superstar to X Factor, and he now has Reinforcement as his Superstar X Factor ability. The game's top defenders excel in all situations when they enter the zone. This ability increases their chance of defeating run blocks and disrupting catches via tackles. And then going down to Superstar is Unfakeable, Return Man, and Recuperation. So that's our 3rd defender we see whose development has gone up a level, and we'll see if he made the Pro Bowl, which he did not this season. I believe he made it last year though, but still, what a development there for our defense, as we have Scruggs go from Superstar to X Factor, and we also had Taylor Goddard, our rookie, go from star to superstar, and Caleb Patton go from star to superstar as well. And now going to the secondary, we have Dale Gilmore, his 2nd year out of Tennessee. I don't think he made the Pro Bowl, but maybe Matthew Torrance did. But Matthew Torrance also goes up to an X Factor superstar, and like Scruggs, he gets Reinforcement, also has Stonewall, No Outsiders, and Tackle Supreme. So make it now 4 defenders who have gone up a development trait, as he's up to an X Factor now. You'll have to see that from Matthew Torrance. We signed him to a 4-year extension, or maybe it was even a 5-year extension during the season, and he did not make a Pro Bowl, but that makes it 7 Pro Bowlers for our Year 5 Salt Lake City Snowhawks, and also 4 defenders who have evolved their development trait. And I don't think we had any on offense. McDonald was already an X Factor. Nothing here at running back receiver. Carlos Alvarez does go up to superstar. Okay, that does make a lot of sense. I figured it was only a matter of time. I was saying all season that he was going to hit superstar development, which he finally does after winning wide receiver of the year, also offensive player of the year. And he has short elite. Receivers with this ability catch more consistently while catching passes less than 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. He has steamroller. Ball carriers with this ability retain more of their forward momentum during tackles while traveling at high speeds. And then we have deep in elite. Receivers with this ability catch more consistently while catching passes 20 plus yards from the line of scrimmage inside the numbers. So Alvarez has established himself as one of the best receivers in the game, and he's now up to superstar development. So that's 5 players over the course of this season that increased their development trait. And with that, the last order of business here before we get into the Super Bowl preview, we are going to look at the league leaders here statistically and see who led all the categories in this Year 5 season. Lucas McDonald did come off a career best across the board, but he was not enough to lead the league in passing, as that again goes to Patrick Mahomes, finishing with over 4,800 passing yards, 56 touchdown passes, en route to his 5th MVP award, completed 73%. Behind him was Josh Allen, followed by Lucas McDonald, Joe Burrow, and then Jordan Love rounding at the top 5, followed by Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, Jared Goff, Ben Davis of the Cowboys, CJ Stroud, the Rookie of the Year here, Deshaun Montague, Will Evans of the Rams, Bo Nix, Cliff Boston, now the quarterback for Tampa Bay, Byron Snow, the quarterback for the Seahawks, former #1 overall pick, Emmett Dalton of the Browns, Brock Purdy, rookie Adrian Kincaid there of the Panthers, Jaden Daniels leading in touchdown passes was Mahomes there with the 56. That actually breaks Peyton Manning's record from 2013 by 1 touchdown. So Mahomes breaks a record, wins the MVP, and now going for his 5th Super Bowl ring. But we're going to try and stand in his way. Joe Burrow was second with 46. Josh Allen, Bo Nix tied for third with 41. And then we had McDonald, Ben Davis, and Will Evans each with 40. Leading in interceptions was Rookie of the Year Deshaun Montague. Of course, you'll let that go a little bit in his rookie season, especially when he throws 32 touchdowns. And he's already one of the most dynamic running quarterbacks in the NFL. 19 interceptions from his rookie counterpart there in the NFC South, Adrian Kincaid. Kyler Murray, an expiring contract with the Titans. He's set for free agency. He was third with 18. Darren Anderson of the Raiders, former first-round pick out of Cincinnati back in our year 1 offseason. They may look to move on from him this offseason. Trevor Lawrence with 16, Bo Nix with 15, and we saw David Madden of the Jets a few episodes ago. He had 14, and then Davis, Dalton there with 13 each. Leading in completion percentage was Lamar Jackson at 75%. I believe he finished third in the MVP race. Joe Burrow was at 74%. Mahomes, Jordan Love at 73%. We see J.J. McCarthy here at 72%. He led the Vikings to an NFC North title here in year 5, one of the biggest surprise teams of the season, who had the longest pass. And we had McCarthy, Cliff Bost, and Will Evans each had a 90-yarder this season, and sacks. We were sacked 62 times this year, which led the NFL. But of course, we do spend a lot of time there in the slow sim, which does inflate the numbers. We're going to try and work that out for next season. But behind him was Adrian Kincaid, sacked 51 times there of the Carolina Panthers. Now going over to rushing, and Isaiah Pacheco, the rushing leader this season, as he brings home his first rushing title. And we're going to see him in Super Bowl 63. He led the second leading rusher here, Breece Hall, by over 200 yards, as Pacheco is 5.6 yards per clip, 10 touchdowns, no fumbles, and 48 broken tackles. An absolute load, and he has the speed to go with that. Breece Hall finished second in the league, over 1,100 yards. Kenneth Walker, the third on the board. He broke 1,000. Javonte Williams, 4th, and we have Dontrell Dixon, 5th, third-year back out of Texas for the Cincinnati Bengals. And we have Nolan Kinley here, last year's AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year. He finishes at 1,000 yards, right on the nose in his second season, developing into a nice running back there for the Jags, who did trade Travis Etienne earlier in the season to the Chargers. And we have rookie Dwan Randolph here with 12 touchdowns, which I believe ranked 3rd among all running backs this season. Josh Jacobs behind him. And going back to Randolph, we said he was one of the biggest sleepers in this past draft. The Patriots have a very nice running back there from the 4th round. Kyron Williams, Bijan Robinson, Zach Charbonnet now of the Vikings, Lamar Hales we saw in the award races. 4th-year back also out of Texas, along with Dontrell Dixon, who we talked about before, of the Cincinnati Bengals. And Devon Achane here with 14 rushing touchdowns, and even Jonathan Taylor down here with 17. That actually led the NFL, although his production is dipping at this stage of his career. I think he's down to just a star development into the mid-80s in terms of overall, but Devon Achane, 795 yards, running behind a poor offensive line there in Miami, but still had 14 touchdowns. Dontrell Dixon had 13. Lamar Jackson and Anthony Richardson led all quarterbacks here with 13, but Jackson with 700 rushing yards led all signal callers. And then we saw Dwan Randolph with 12 touchdowns, 11 from Jacobs, Lamar Hales, Travis Etienne, like I said, now of the Chargers. Pacheco had 10, along with Antonio Montgomery, 3rd-year back for the Lions, as it's certainly a new-look backfield now there with the Lions, with no more Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery. Bijan and J.K. Dobbins rounding out the double-digit touchdown scores on the ground. Breece Hall led with 4 fumbles, 3 from Puka Nacua and Jahmyr Gibbs. Broken tackles, Zach Charbonnet with 64 led the league. And now going over to receiving, and our very own Carlos Alvarez, Offensive Player of the Year, led the league with 1,562 receiving yards and also led with 17 touchdown catches. But he was 3 catches short of a triple crown, as Baltimore Ravens tight end Travis Weldon finishes with 112 to Alvarez's 109. And what a bummer that was, as Alvarez finishes just short of that triple crown. But Travis Weldon, part of our year 1 draft class, he was a 3rd-round pick out of Texas, and he's emerged as one of the best tight ends in all of football, putting together back-to-back seasons of 1,100-plus receiving yards with 13 touchdowns in that span. A 3-time Pro Bowler coming off a season in which he led the league in receptions, and he is set to hit free agency, so we'll see if we have the means to maybe make a run at him as our tight end of the future. And only 3 players had over 100 catches this year, along with Weldon and Alvarez. Jaden Reed of the Packers, the other there. And then we also had Jordan Addison right there with 98, Puka Nacua with 96, Khalil Shakir and Dontavion Wicks of our Snowhawks each had 94. Tracy Pryor, we saw earlier, of the Atlanta Falcons, 92 catches for over 1,200 yards. And now sorting by yardage, of course, Alvarez led the league, but Brandon Ayuk, his first season as a Cleveland Brown, was one of the best receivers in the league with 90 catches for over 1,400 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns, which was third in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown third in receiving, over 1,400. Puka Nacua was fourth, and Rashee Rice rounding out the top 5. He has been an absolute problem over the course of this franchise. Really gonna have to game plan for him in next week's Super Bowl. Jackson Smith and Jigba at 6, Tracy Pryor at 7, Khalil Shakir at 8, and Travis Weldon led all tight ends over 1,200 receiving yards, and of course also led the league in catches. And then top 10 here rounding it out is Ladd McConkey at over 1,200 receiving yards. Alvarez had 17 touchdowns, 16 from Puka Nacua and Troy Franklin, 15 from Brandon Ayuk and Quincy Richards, who we're going to see in the Super Bowl, the offensive rookie of the year, first-round pick, the top tight end in this past draft class. DeMar Wilcox, third-year man out of UW there for Washington, 14 touchdowns along there with Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Devontae Logan. Rashee Rice had 13. I think he's averaging like 15 per year over the course of this franchise so far. T. Higgins with 13 along with Khalil Shakir, and a couple guys here with a dozen, including Terrence Webster of Detroit and Darnell Mooney of the Falcons. And now going over to defense, leading the league in tackles was Ernest Jones IV of the Seattle Seahawks. Behind him, Jack Campbell, his first year with the Buffalo Bills. He was trying to get them back to the Super Bowl, but they fell in the conference championship, of course, to the Chiefs. AFC Defensive Rookie of the Year, Dexter Gresham, third in the league in tackles. Also had 4 TFLs, a sack and a half, and an interception. Cody Barton now of the Lions had over 120 tackles. Tyrese Knight of the Commanders here with 119, tied with Jerry Sexton, who led our team. And then Terrell Bernard, last year's Super Bowl champion with the Buffalo Bills, was cut in the preseason and signed with the Panthers. Ended up having a decent year production-wise there. Going over to TFLs leading the league, there was Myles Garrett with 22. He could retire today and be in Canton by tomorrow. Taylor Goddard, second in the league with 20. I did not see that coming. Our defensive rookie of the year, and our very own Caleb Patton here, tied with Braden Fiskey, the defensive player of the year. Each of them had 19 TFLs. Derek Brown of the Panthers with 16, 15 from Jalen Carter and Greg Rousseau, 14 from Aiden Hutchinson, Jared Verse, Nick Herbig, and Kayvon Thibodeau. And now we're going over to sacks here. Leading the league was Myles Garrett with 24. One behind him was Braden Fiskey, and behind him was teammate Kobe Turner with 18.5. Larry Fowler, now the third-ranked defensive tackle in all of football. His fourth year out of Miami, former first-round pick, who we're going to see next week of the Kansas City Chiefs with 16.5, tied here with TJ Watt and our very own Caleb Patton from the same draft class as Fowler, but selected like 70 selections later on. 16 sacks from Hutchinson, 15 from last year's Defensive Player of the Year, Jared Verse, tied with Alex Highsmith. 14.5 from Greg Rousseau, 14 from Taylor Goddard. He's just destined to be one of the best pass rushers over the remainder of this franchise. Interceptions, the leader here was DJ Reed, former Kansas State Wildcat, longtime NFL journeyman, now in his 11th season, and he has a career-high 6 interceptions, 5 from Derek Stingley Jr., second in the league. And they made a huge cluster here of guys with 4, including Sauce Gardner, Darius Simpson, who won Best Defensive Back in the NFC his second year out of Temple, Fred Warner, Trayvon Diggs now of the Steelers, James Thomas, a fourth-year corner out of East Carolina for the Panthers, Quinyon Mitchell, Renardo Green now of the Jags. He signed a big contract this past free agency. Dion Henley of the Chargers, AJ Terrell Jr., and Greg Newsome II. All of those guys had 4, and leading in pass deflections, 15 here from Azeez Al-Shahir, Trevante Hillhouse, a 30-year linebacker for the Bengals out of Stanford, along with Ernest Jones IV, who also led the league in tackles. He added 15 pass deflections as well, 14 from DeAndre Weber, former first-round pick from the Steelers, who was traded to the Chiefs in season, and he finished with 14. We're going to see him next week, as I think he's actually their highest-rated corner, so that trade definitely worked out for them. Leo Chenal also with 14, a do-it-all linebacker, also had 3 interceptions, 13 pass deflections from our own Jerry Sexton, 12 from Devin Bush now of the Falcons, forced fumble leader here, 3 from Sauce Gardner and 3 from Dre Greenlaw, and then a bunch of guys down here with 2. Terrion Arnold among them, of course, one of our corners. Fumble recoveries, 4 from Neil Abraham, 4 from Tyler Nubin. And how many blocks did we have? 2 from Jabril Peppers, and we had a few safeties this year. Aries Burgess there of the Saints, Myles Garrett got 1, Chris Braswell got 1, and only 3 defensive touchdowns here. Tyler Nubin had 1. Dakota Michaels, he had a pick 6 against Patrick Mahomes going back to week 11, and then also Deron Stephenson of the Pittsburgh Steelers had 1. And with that now all out of the way, we're now ready to preview Super Bowl 63. Our Snowhawks are back in it. We fell last year 29-26 against the Buffalo Bills, and we're now taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Each team coming as a 90 overall rated team. We have a slight edge offensively at 92 compared to their 91. And defensively, we're both even at an 89 defensive rating and equal records there at 13-4 during the regular season. So very evenly matched, it seems, on paper. But we're going to now dive a little bit deeper, and we'll start with our regular season meeting. As I mentioned, we did meet during the regular season on Monday Night Football. That was week 11. Our Snowhawks advanced to 9-2 after that win. as it was a 31-24 victory. We went into halftime leading 21-7, and despite a 17-point fourth quarter effort from Kansas City, too little too late, as we hung on to a 7-point victory there, outgaining them offensively 318 to 303, although we did win the turnover battle, picking off Patrick Mahomes twice in this game. He passed for 250 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions, threw the rock 48 times, completed 62%, but it was eventually outdueled by Lucas McDonald, who threw 3 touchdown passes in this game, no interceptions. He was sacked 6 times, though, and completed 59%. Rushing the rock, Isaiah Pacheco led the way with 64 yards, 4.6 yards per carry. Of course, we saw he led the NFL in rushing. Lucas McDonald had 62 yards on 10 scrambles, also fumbled. So that's where our turnover came in. And rookie Manny Reynolds, our 6th-round pick out of California, was thrusted into the starting role for the first time in his career, as Tank Bigsby missed this matchup with a concussion. And a respectable effort there from Reynolds, 15 rushes for 51 yards. Mahomes had 2 scrambles for touchdowns in this game, so make it 3 total, plus those 2 interceptions. 5 catches for 92 yards, 2 touchdowns from Carlos Alvarez as he continued to build on what was a phenomenal sophomore campaign, and behind him was Rashee Rice, 6 catches, 78 yards, and surprisingly we held him without a touchdown in this game. Mark Andrews 5 for 55, Marvin Harrison Jr. 3 for 41, and Dontavion Wicks not the most efficient, but will take 6 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. Xavier Worthy held him to just 36 yards on 3 catches. Mike Gesicki was the starting tight end in this game, or not the starter, but he would eventually take over for Quincy Richards, who would leave in the first half due to injury. He had 4 for 30, and Andrew Williams had 1 touchdown on 4 catches. And looking at defense, Matthew Torrance led the way with 14 tackles, are now X-Factor strong safety. Behind him was Jerry Sexton and also Dakota Michaels with 11 tackles. Trent McDuffie led the Chiefs with 11, and TFLs, we had a bunch in this game. 4 from Nick Bolton led the way for the Chiefs, and also Stephen Curtis had 3, the 4th-year pass rusher out of LSU. 2 from Larry Fowler. We saw him as one of the best D tackles in the NFL. Also had 2 sacks in this game. Jonathan Grenard had 2 TFLs, also a sack. So it was Curtis and Fowler in this game. Each had multiple TFLs and multiple sacks there on the Chiefs front. Also a sack from Terrell Landry, 4th-year D end out of Nevada. Taylor Goddard got 1 in this game. James Dawkins, the 6th-round superstar defensive end out of Boise State, one of the biggest sleepers in the entire draft this past year. And Caleb Patton also added 1 interceptions. We had 1 from Dakota Michaels, the 1st-round pick out of Texas Tech. The fellow Red Raider alumni there took Patrick Mahomes back to the house on his first ever defensive touchdown. Nathan Scruggs also had 1. Each of them had a pass deflection in this game as well. 2 from DeAndre Weber. I think he was just acquired like a week or 2 before our matchup at the trade deadline. Jalen Watson also had 2 deflections. 1 forced fumble there from Leo Chenal. The recovery there from DeAndre Weber. And we'll see the touchdown here from Dakota Michaels as he had a pick 6 either towards the end of the first half, early second half, which really turned the momentum in our favor. Harrison Butker was perfect, as was Will Reichert, and then punting the football. 7 punts from each punter in this game, but Jack Browning had a much better performance just based on the net average, although Logan Cook did have 2 inside the 20, also a touchback. Dre Patton had a 39-yard kick return in this game. He strung together a few big ones as this season went on over his rookie campaign. Hopefully he can get a big one in the Super Bowl and maybe even pull a Devin Hester on the opening kickoff. So now at this point, we are going to go down the Chiefs roster and see what we have in store for us in Super Bowl 63. A very, familiar roster with what they started with at the start of this franchise, although we did poach Creed Humphrey from them in free agency. So he's going to be playing against his former team, a team that he won multiple Super Bowl rings with. But of course, it all starts with Patrick Mahomes, the top quarterback in all of football, coming off his 5th MVP season, just broke the single season record for passing touchdowns with 56, had 52 the previous 2 years, and I have to do the math to see where he's at on the all-time leaderboard because he's definitely towards the top at this point in the franchise. Looking at awards, we see 10 Pro Bowl appearances, and we see 5 MVP awards as well. He's won 3 out of the 5 over the course of this franchise, so now he has 5 MVP awards, 4 Super Bowl rings. He's looking to make it 5 apiece with a victory at Raymond James Stadium, host site of Super Bowl 63. Now looking at the stats for Patrick Mahomes, we will look at the abilities real quick. He has bazooka, dashing deadeye, red zone deadeye, pass lead elite, no look deadeye, and hot route master. So, Patrick Mahomes, he can do everything on the football field, whether he's using his legs to create or using that magical arm to complete some insane passes to some of his insane playmakers. Trent McDuffie, the top defensive player on this team at 99 overall corner. He's up to superstar development with 99 man coverage, 99 play rec, and 98 zone, 96 press. So how do you get open against Trent McDuffie? We're going to have to see if Marvin Harrison Jr. and Carlos Alvarez have an answer there. Although Alvarez did have a very nice game in the regular season matchup. Now Isaiah Pacheco, a 98 overall elusive back. He's up to an X factor, of course, coming off a season in which he led the league in rushing. He's at 99 carrying, no fumbles all year, 99 spin move, 96 ball carrier vision, 98 break tackle, and the athletics very good, 93 speed, 99 acceleration, 90 agility, and also a 97 juke move. And he has good power traits as well. So between Mahomes and Pacheco, maybe the best backfield in all of football. And it doesn't end there on offense because Rashee Rice, a top 5 receiver, a 99 overall with the morale boosts. And let's take a look at the numbers. Just absurd touchdown production over the course of this franchise. 13 this year, 20 the year before, 19 the year before that, and then 30 combined in the first 2 years of this franchise. So my quick math, that's 82 touchdown catches in 5 years. That is just baffling. I want to say 16 an average annually there for Rashee Rice. Hopefully, again, we can keep him out of the touchdown sheet. And in the box score, Trey Smith, their top lineman, but he's actually injured. He has a dislocated shoulder, so he's out 1 week, and he is actually going to miss the Super Bowl. So bad enough we poached Creed Humphrey from them. They're also going to be without Trey Smith. So their interior has definitely dwindled down. We're definitely going to take a closer look at their offensive line, just taking a look at their top players right now on the roster. We saw Leo Chenal was among the league leaders there in tackles for loss and pass deflections, and he also added 3 interceptions this season as well, with 96 tackle, 95 pursuit, 91 block shed, 88 speed. Not the best coverage ratings, but some very impressive traits there, but definitely not a complete linebacker. But I don't think it matters when you're up to 94 overall, an X factor at that. Larry Fowler, we talked about a bunch already in this episode. First round pick from our year 1 offseason out of Miami, and he's already the 3rd top rated D tackle in all of football with 97 strength, 95 block shed, 93 finesse move, and good athletics at his size as well. So Larry Fowler, Leo Chenal, Trent McDuffie. It looks like they have an impact player in every phase of the defense. Of course, Xavier Worthy, the sidekick here to Rashee Rice. 98 speed, offers a different skill set that we're definitely going to have to account for. Worthy can be over the top with that 98 speed, 99 acceleration, 94 deep route, 92 spec catch. So between Nathan Scruggs and Terrion Arnold, we should do a decent job at guarding the perimeter against Worthy and Rice. But I'm still not sure what we're going to do for our game plan. We're going to take a look at that and set that here shortly. I'm still between if we should focus on the medium pass, the standard pass, or the deep pass here against Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Joe Thuney, now their top guard here, or top offensive lineman, with injury to Trey Smith, up to a 91. 35 years old. It seems like not long ago he was starting at left tackle in the Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles and getting absolutely obliterated. But of course, that's not how it went over the course of this franchise based on our start date and this timeline. That Super Bowl never happened. So Joe Thuney, more of a clean conscience working into this Super Bowl, but definitely a lot is going to be asked out of him. A very complete lineman, but it looks like they're going to be a little inexperienced up front, so hopefully that 35 years of age, that 12 years of experience will give the inexperience alongside him a little bit of a boost. So we will just go by position now and take a look at this team. So we already saw Patrick Mahomes, of course, the top quarterback in football, the MVP winner. Isaiah Pacheco, arguably the top running back in football, as he led the league in rushing. They also have Judah Newberry, a rookie out of USC, more of a power back, and also Lionel Johnson, another rookie. So a very inexperienced backfield behind Isaiah Pacheco. If there's any circumstance where he's forced to miss any amount of time in that game receiving, we already saw Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. Their third option in the receiving core is Andrew Williams, 5'10", 192, second-year man out of LSU. He had 8 touchdown catches this season after no stats in his rookie campaign. A solid 4th option behind Rice, Worthy, and the tight end. The former second-round pick out of LSU has emerged, like I said, as a decent option, an afterthought in this passing game. 21-year-old rookie here. Quincy Richards had 15 touchdown catches as a rookie on 68 catches at that. So like every 4.5 catches was for a touchdown here from Richards. 10.5 average per catch, over 700 yards at 6'5", 251. And we'll take a look at the traits as well. Definitely going to have to account for him in this game. 84 speed, 89 catching with 91 medium route. So not much of a threat deep, not as much of a threat short, but definitely in the intermediate to medium range. He can make you pay. Good hands as well. And 74 run block is pretty good there from a vertical threat tight end. And they also have very good depth behind him. Good experience in Mike Gesicki and Michael Mayer at left tackle. They were able to re-sign Kingsley Suamataia, 25-year-old out of BYU, was coming off a rookie contract. We were hoping he would hit free agency, but we weren't that lucky We were lucky enough to get Creed Humphrey, though, but Kingsley here, a big weakness there against pass block finesse, and he's going to be matched up against Taylor Goddard a lot, and he excels as a pass rush finesse type guy, so hopefully we can exploit that in the Super Bowl. But a very good left tackle there for the Chiefs. And at left guard, Joe Thuney, we saw him at 91 overall, 35 years old, so maybe the last football game he ever plays, but a very strong offensive line there on the left side. And at center, it's going to be Sam Conway, fourth-year man out of Mississippi State. We'll take a look at his ratings: 87 strength with 83 run block, 77 pass block, and the power traits are very much down, and otherwise not really the strongest traits there for Sam Conway, so a clear blemish at center for the Chiefs. It looks like they were not able to replace Creed Humphrey, as Conway, a former undrafted free agent on his fourth team in as many seasons, but able to carve out a role here starting for the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. At right guard, probably going to be Brian Middleton, second-year man, just a 73 overall in place of Trey Smith, unless they go with one of their backup offensive tackles, maybe Keon Simon. He is a 76 overall, or maybe even Russell Morton. We're going to have to take a look at their depth chart. And at right tackle, it's going to be Wyatt Preston, third-year man out of Florida, 6'7", 340, just great size there on the right side. Has that power archetype with 91 strength and moves decently at his size, and pretty well balanced as well, although those finesse traits are a little bit down as well. So maybe we can even move Tyler Goddard from the left side to the right side and just have him try and expose these deficiencies that these bookends have against finesse pass rushers. And now going over to the Kansas City Chiefs defense, George Karlaftis, maybe the best defensive lineman they have at 88 overall power rusher, a pending free agent who we're definitely going to take a run at. 96 power move with 90 play rec, 78 block shed, very good awareness there in the mid 90s with 86 strength, 85 hit power, just a very complete defensive end as he's gone on throughout his career, but definitely can, make a difference as a power rusher. So he's going to be going up against Ikem Ekwonu there, our right tackle for most of the game. James Dawkins, we talked about him, one of the biggest steals in this past draft class. So superstar development coming out of the 6th round there out of Boise State, already up to 79 overall. I'm probably going to get another upgrade before the Super Bowl after training this week, as it looks like he is set to succeed George Karlaftis. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for Kansas City to let Karlaftis walk to free agency, where we can maybe swoop in and make a deal with him. A little bit weak here at right end with Rashawn Hardy, 74 overall, and Terrell Landry, 72 overall, both there out of the Mountain West. At D tackle, we already saw Larry Fowler, and they also have Chad Johnson, not Chad Ochocinco, but Chad Nueve Cuatro, as he's 6'2", 410 pounds, this D tackle out of Penn State. Just so much width there on the interior of this defensive line. Has that 95 strength to back up the size, but that 55 speed does seem about right, as he does not move that well. Going to struggle with lateral quickness, but with that big size, that strength, is definitely the type of guy who can eat up running lanes and eat double teams to allow someone like Larry Fowler to roam free there on the inside. So between Fowler and Johnson, a very good D-tackle tandem. They have a good pass rusher here in Karlaftis, and I'm assuming that James Dawkins is actually probably the starter at right end, as that would make the most sense. So a pretty good defensive line there from Kansas City. And then also Devon Williams, a third-year man out of Oregon State, a very good run-stopping linebacker. I remember we had our eye on him during the draft process, and definitely more of a one-trick pony with that 85 block shed, 87 pursuit, 88 tackle. Decent athlete, but not going to provide any presence against the pass. And at middle linebacker, they have Nick Bolton, of course, one of the best linebackers now at this point in Chiefs history. 87 speed, 94 tackle, 91 block shed, 97 pursuit, 93 play rec, and decent coverage ratings to go along with that, although not the best in that department. And then at right outside linebacker, they shuffle between Stan Snowden and Stephen Curtis. And we saw Curtis had a pair of sacks against us in that regular season matchup. And at corner, they had McDuffie and also DeAndre Weber, who they traded for during the season from the Pittsburgh Steelers, former first-round pick out of Kansas, as he was the first Jayhawk corner selected in the first round since Aqib Talib. Weber was 26th overall in 2026, and he ended his season with 14 pass deflections, and I believe that was tied for the team lead on Kansas City. Decent depth behind him between Jalen Watson and John Ellis. Also Antonio Flowers here. All these guys high 70 to low 80 overall, providing decent depth behind McDuffie and Weber, their top two. And they do have some good young safeties here. Tony Shaw, fourth-year man out of Penn State, first-round pick from that first offseason, coming off a season in which he had a career-high 78 tackles, 3 interceptions, and I stand corrected, he was the third-round pick from that year one class, not the first-round pick, but he did make the Pro Bowl this past season, and he has a very good counterpart here at free safety at strong safety being Tommy Elliott, first-round pick out of Tennessee from a year ago. He was selected one pick before we selected Dale Gilmore, his college teammate, and not only that, they were both safeties, but I think Elliott definitely the better player, especially seeing he has that superstar development with 90 speed, 92 zone coverage, 85 pursuit, 88 play rec, and 88 man coverage. Just a complete safety. The tackling and hit power is still very good. At his age, they're only going to get better. So between Elliott and Shaw, a very young safety tandem there for Kansas City on the back end with very good corners to go along with that. So not many weaknesses on this Kansas City team. Maybe one of their linebackers might be a little bit weaker. One of their defensive ends might be a little bit weaker. And they do have a few weaknesses on the offensive line that hopefully we can exploit in the Super Bowl. I think that'll be our biggest recipe for success. That left side of the offensive line probably going to hold it down with Kingsley Suamataia and also Joe Thuney. But at center, very weak with Sam Conway. Right guard, Trey Smith is out. And besides someone like Patrick Mahomes, maybe their most important player, honestly, in a game of this magnitude, because the absence of Trey Smith really knocks him back and really deteriorates their offensive line. But they definitely have the playmakers to make up for it with Quincy Richards, 15 touchdowns as a rookie. Rashee Rice, 80 touchdown catches over the course of this franchise. Xavier Worthy can take it to the house every time he touches the rock. Isaiah Pacheco, the league's most impressive rusher this past season, and not to mention the best quarterback in all of the NFL. So we certainly have our work cut out for us, but I think we're going to be up to the task. They have Harrison Butker at kicker, one of the best this past season, and also Jack Browning at their punter spot. And with that, we will now go over to our game plan and discuss what we're going to do there. So coming over to weekly strategy, and now we do have to choose our defensive game plan focus. And if you look there towards the top right of the screen, Chiefs offense, they were number one in points per game, total yards, passing yards, and rushing yards. So I don't think it really matters what you try and game plan for, because they're going to beat you in any other way. But if you go down to offensive play calling tendencies, they pass 57% of the time, and it's suggesting that we choose defensive game plan focus to defend the outside run. But I'm not worried about the run. I mean, I am, but not as much as I'm worried about the pass, because we know Mahomes is probably going to throw it like 40 times as he did in that regular season matchup. So I'm really just torn up between defending the medium pass or the deep pass. And I usually tend to go towards the medium pass because I feel like that's usually where teams try to attack you. And they were second in the league in medium completions, first in attempts, third in passer rating, first in yardage, and first in medium pass touchdowns. So I think I am leading more towards medium, but then again, they're like number one in all these deep pass ratings as well. But taking into account, I feel like in the slow sims, we don't see the CPU try to test you deep as much. So we're going to go defend medium pass here. And that also takes into account Quincy Richards, where he really excelled as a medium route runner. So we're going to try and take him out of the game with that in mind. Now going over to our offensive game plan, we see the Chiefs defense was 11th in points per game, 19th in total yards, 24th in passing yards, but a good chunk of that could have been against teams where they were forced to throw it a lot because they were trailing, as they also boasted a top 5 rushing defense, and they were top 5 in takeaways and 11th in sacks. They do blitz 38% of the time, and they're mostly going to be out there in a zone coverage. So they do blitz a lot, and with that in mind, we might just stick with the suggestion here and go blitz counter. We'll get added blocker blitz awareness, also added double moves versus off coverage, but the negative to that is that they'll get faster reaction to our short passes, but I'm willing to take that risk, as that's what we're going to roll with. So it's going to be blitz counter for our offensive game plan focus, and defend medium pass for our defensive game plan focus in Super Bowl 63. And before we get out of here, there's a couple other things I do want to get to, including distributing these skill points for Carlos Alvarez and Taylor Goddard. Of course, Alvarez won Offensive Player of the Year along with Best Receiver, so he now has 2 more skill points to build on what has been a phenomenal sophomore campaign. As I said earlier, he's now up to an 86 overall physical archetype, and was just recently elevated to superstar development with 92 speeds, 93 short route, 89 medium route, 86 deep route, with already 99 catch in traffic, 94 catching, 89 release, and he has tremendous size at 6'3", 233, and he's only 23 years old and has already led the NFL in receiving yards and touchdowns, but could not quite finish that triple crown. So where do you really go from here? We've been kind of pouring into that deep route, and I think that's just what we're going to continue to do here, as that is his lowest route running attribute. Maybe we'll go to slot after this one. We'll see how it goes and see what we upgrade. We get 5 there. We get +2 for ball carrier vision, +2 for deep route, +1 for catching, change of direction, and awareness. And we'll check back here, still 88 deep route, but we'll just diversify it a little bit. We'll go slot now, and see what that brings us. So that jumps him up to a 92 overall now. We get +2 for vision, +2 for catching, and 1 for short route and awareness. So overall, I think the ball carrier vision went up +4, and we also got those abilities where I think it was the steamroller here. Ball carriers with this ability retain more of their forward momentum during tackles while traveling at high speed. So pairing that with his upgraded ball carrier vision, Carlos Alvarez just really is a complete receiver now, an 87 overall slot physical receiver, and the traits are just off the charts. And he's going to have a phenomenal career as a Snowhawk. Now going over to Taylor Goddard, another young player we've drafted into the organization, another first-round pick at that, and he too has 2 skill points to distribute, an 83 overall speed rusher right now, recently elevated to superstar development, 92 finesse move already, and already an 89 block shed. So those 2 cornerstone traits are already among the best in the NFL at his position. I really do wish we could get that 82 speed, 79 strength up a bit, but I think here again we'll just go right back to that speed rusher and get that finesse move all the way up to 99, might as well, as we get +1 for a bunch of traits, including +2 for pursuit. So that now puts our finesse move up to 93, block shed at 90, and the power move at 85. So let's go into that power move. We'll just make him a complete pass rusher here. Even though he's more of a finesse guy, he can beat you with power moves as well. And we get +2 for power moves, and we also get an ability slot. So in addition to BOGO, which we saw earlier, Reach Elite, we also get Mr. Big Stop. Defenders with this ability will start and 3rd or 4th down with at least half of their maximum pass rush points. So I feel like that's kind of clutch to get that right before the big game. And a couple other upgrades we had here, not as noteworthy, although Caleb Patton, he's been elevated to superstar development recently as well, set for a franchise tag after he declined all our offers in season. So we'll tag him and try and sign him long term. And he is a speed rusher, has that 93 block shed, 92 finesse move with a good combo of speed and power with 75 speed, 86 strength. And I guess at this point we'll just round him out further and pay into that power move, get that into the 80s. And again, kind of like we saw with Taylor Goddard, someone who can beat you with speed, but also bringing around those power moves as well. Gets +1 for power move, +2 for block shed, and we'll take that. And now concluding our upgrades here before the Super Bowl, we get Jonathan Grenard, brought him in on a 1-year contract. He's at 91 finesse move. We'll go just into the block shed as a run stopper. Probably the last upgrade maybe he'll see in his career unless he signs another extension. But we get +4 for block shed. So as a 31-year-old, we'll definitely take that now up to 86 as he does rotate time at the end in our rotation, along with Taylor Goddard, Kwity Paye, and even Braylon Trice. And we also had some coaching points that we could spend, so we'll go over to manage staff, franchise staff here, and we have 46 points, which we could go into our head coach of the year here, John Gruden, our offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan, our DC, Dan Quinn. I'm very nervous that one or both of our coordinators are going to get hired as head coaches, because I think I mentioned earlier there's like 8 to 10 head coaching vacancies, and they might be the top guys for the job, but we have some points to distribute, and we definitely want to go into player skills here. We're not looking towards off-season abilities or anything like that. We're trying to make our team better now, because when else does it matter more? And I think we'll go into offensive line guru. We gave up 6 sacks against the Chiefs in the regular season matchup, and that's a unit we're always looking to improve no matter how good it is. And we actually have these maximum abilities down here. Hold the pocket, which is +1 for pass block, or downhill force, which is +1 for run block. But of course, the emphasis has been getting better as a pass blocking team. So we're going to spend 40 points here into hold the pocket for our offensive coordinator ability. And I'm really hoping that we keep both, or at least one of our coordinators, because then all of these points we have poured in to these coaching trees are just going to be nil and void. So hopefully we get that back. But this is where I'm going to leave you, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I know it was a long, strenuous episode going over all the pageantries here, the formalities leading into the big game, but definitely necessary, I feel, to paint the picture, to preview what's going to happen, and also to review what has got us here. Of course, our Snowhawks fell in last year's Super Bowl, so back-to-back appearances now, but this time we have to win it. Last year we squandered a 17-0 lead as Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills secured their first ever Super Bowl championship in franchise history, as we're also seeking ours, whereas the Chiefs are seeking their 5th or 6th now at this point, as they've proven to be the dynasty of the decade. But our Snowhawks now the young newcomer on the block. We're trying to prove ourselves and show that we belong on the big stage after our collapse last season. Now we reassessed and we had our best regular season in franchise history so far at 13-4 en route to another Super Bowl appearance. And I invite you to come back for that. Going to be a huge game against the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 63 from Raymond James Stadium, where actually Mahomes is familiar with, as as they lost a matchup there in the Super Bowl nonetheless against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers all those years ago. But as always, everybody, it's been real, and be well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.